Hello, my name is Dr. Ray Roberts. I have been in education for the past 25 years at the middle school, high school, post-secondary, as leadership, teacher, educator, researcher. I've done many roles in education, and I am here to spend a couple minutes with you to talk to you about the things you can do to become the best advocate for your learner. First, please do not put a lot of weight on grades. Grades are subjective. Grades are only a reflection of the curriculum that your learner is engaging. Okay? The content that your learner is engaging. If your learner is engaging content that is inert and does not meet their wants, needs, and expectations, it may lead to them not being interested or being disinterested in the material. And therefore, they may not get the grades you would like them to get. They may not become the A student because what they're being presented, the content they're being presented, does not meet their wants, needs, and expectations. That content may not be personalized. It may not show any differentiation. It may not address the problems that they're facing and the concerns that they're having. Content, curriculum, engagement must be centered around the students' want, needs, and expectations. This is the clean definition of what we call student-centered learning. And unfortunately, a lot of schools say they're engaging in student-centered practicing when actually they're engaging primarily in teacher-centered practices. Now, again, I'm not saying that teacher-centered learning is bad. However, what I'm saying is that most of it, the engagement that your child or that your child or your children should be, the method that they should be using, the approach that they should be experiencing, it should be student-centered. Must be student-centered. If it's not student-centered, then we may see problems. Okay. The other issue that I want to talk about is the misdiagnoses of learning disabilities. In today's current climate, many students are being diagnosed with learning disabilities that they simply don't have. A lot of times they're misdiagnoses. The child is actually experiencing health issues that are being diagnosed as learning disabilities. A lot of times simply it's because of some lifestyle changes that need to take place, i.e. the learner getting enough sleep. In today's age with tablets and smartphones, students are not getting a lot of sleep. And if the students are not getting a lot of sleep and they're going to school groggy, they go and disinterested because they didn't get enough sleep, the teacher may perceive, or other people in the building, the school psychologist may perceive that the learner as having a learning disability, and then send you out for testing and spending money and driving you up the wall for no apparent reason, when a simple lifestyle change, i.e. eating properly and getting enough sleep, will solve that issue. The other part of that is, again, the curriculum may not just be addressing the students' wants, needs, and expectations, which can also cause misdiagnoses. If the content that they're receiving is disinteresting, the student's going to be disinterested. Just please keep that in mind. The last point that I want to make, because I want to make this video short, is that educators don't have all the answers. As I told you before, I'm an educational researcher, and the more I research, the more I realize we simply don't know. Dr. Diane Lawson-Friedman said, "Students do not learn because we teach." Okay, teaching does not cause learning. Steve Willis. The reality is, we know very little about how students learn and how to meet the expectations of students. So we have these societal expectations, and we fall short of getting students to those societal expectations. because we really don't know how students learn. We have good theories, but teaching and learning is still the art of teaching and learning, the science of teaching and learning. We're still exploring it. We're still trying to understand it. We're still going through the motions. And therefore, that means you must take what educators say with a grain of salt. The best example of this is you look at the world's top entrepreneurs. You look at the world's top CEOs. You look at the world's top researchers. You look at some of the best doctors that we have ever had, and they weren't the valedictorian. They weren't necessarily straight A students. In fact, in the business world, most companies stray away from straight A students because straight A students tend not to have the critical thinking and the growth mindset needed to thrive in an ever-changing environment. So just, I know we love it when our children get A's on the test, and and the teacher has wonderful things to say about them, but that doesn't mean it doesn't necessarily translate to future success. And if your child is a C student or even a D student, that doesn't translate to future failure, and it does not translate to your child having some type of learning disability. Just because your child is not paying attention and doing everything the teacher says does not mean they're bad or they have some issue and they need to be medicated or they need to be put on a certain type of program. Make sure that the school that you enroll your child in meets your child's wants, needs, and expectations. Being successful, there are many various forms and how that looks, and it's not being successful. Being a good student is not a monolithic frame. It's not within a monolithic frame. There are many variations of success. So the last point I want to make is, please understand that you are your child's primary educator. You have to advocate for your child. You have to look at the curriculum. You have to look at what they're learning and make sure that what they're learning is not inert. You have to be engaged. You have to challenge the teachers. You have to challenge the educators. And if they don't, the administrators, and if they don't want to be challenged, then this is probably not a school you want your child in. You want a school where the educators can admit to a fault, can say that they don't know everything, can say that they're doing their best, just trying new things, being innovative, looking at project-based learning and problem-based learning. Schools that show a growth mindset, schools that are interested in transfer, schools that are interested in students being able to solve problems, their problems, both individually and collectively. Schools where there's open dialogue and communication, promoting teacher advocacy. Research by Dr. John Hattie and Visible Learning consistently shows us that when teachers have collective teacher advocacy, meaning they're talking to one another and they're trying to solve problems, and they have a growth mindset, they build their confidence, and that becomes contagious, and the students become successful too. It ends up with high academic performance in the students. So learning is local. Understand that it's local, and it requires you as the parent to be the primary advocator. Do not rely on any school to advocate for your child. You have to advocate for your child. When there's an issue, you have to figure out what that issue is. Sometimes it is your child just being obnoxious, and sometimes it's not your child. Sometimes it's the teacher being closed-minded or not looking at it in ways that are beneficial for your learner. So I just wanted to take a minute to say these things because often I talk to parents and they succumb to some of the shortcomings of schools. Thank you and have a pleasant day.